The topic of this paper is the entrepreneur's role in innovation, and it is the case of developed versus developing countries. For many decades, economic growth was calculated based on capital and labor. Nowadays, we see that the focus is more on technological innovations and human capital. Human capital is a mixture of health, education, inherited and learned abilities and skills. As such, motivation by better health, better skills and education contribute to a growth in the human capital base, which is a determinant of economic growth. Thus, the economic resources to achieve growth can be improved through investment, exploration, education, and technology innovation. Besides human capital, the latest studies are focused on human development. Previously, the focus of economists was the income growth, and after the 90s, the focus shifted toward the quality of life, and the development strategies were oriented from production to welfare improvement. Whereas technological innovation, sometimes defined as invention, is a new idea manifested, whereas innovation is a successful implementation of this new idea. There are many definitions of an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is defined as a person who works for himself and involves in a great amount of risk to run his own business and to maximize the profits. The latest studies have defined another type of entrepreneur, the intrapreneurs. An entrepreneur is a person who is the manager or the employee of a company, identifying problems and obstacles within the company and optimizing solutions to improve the situation. Some characteristics of entrepreneur are good observer, innovative, self-confident, promoter of progress, and innovators. In 2002, Hindle constructed a model that makes some clear differentiation between what he refers to as big I and small I innovation. Small I refers to new knowledge of any kind, where the big I refers to implementation of new ideas and value creation. The integration of small I innovation, entrepreneurial capacities, and productive opportunities make the big I happen. Livingstone defines big I innovation as the process whereby new ideas are transformed through economic activity into a sustainable, value-creating outcome. The main characteristics of the entrepreneurs are individual abilities and cognitive capabilities, such as risk acceptance or their tolerance for ambiguity, strong need to achieve for self-efficacy, as well as preferences for autonomy. Entrepreneurial firms could substantially contribute to aggregate innovation even though they had modest investments for R&D. Moving on to productive opportunities, a study done by Penrose in 1959 links productivity opportunities in internal factor only, emphasizing the knowledge and resource-based theories of the firm. A study done in 2016 by McKelvey suggests that there are three types of opportunities: technological opportunities, market opportunities, and productive opportunities. A study done in 2018 to have good productive opportunities, it is essential for the firms to be based on technology and external partnerships. As we mentioned previously, there is a difference between the small I innovation and the big I innovation. A study done by Alfaro and others in 2019 says that every innovation starts with an idea, which develops, and if it successfully passes the development stages, and then if it is accepted and absorbed by the market, then we have to do with a big I innovation, while Livingstone defines it as the process whereby new ideas are transformed through economic activity into a sustainable value-creating outcome. And the process of creating this big I is not static but iterative. The base of our model is established on that of Hindle, and we add to this model the fourth component we consider to be important in the integration with the other three components, that of organizative structure of the company. The internal environment of the organization is extremely important given the fact that it might serve as a barrier to the entrepreneurial spirit or as a fundamental supporter of it. The innovation structure is constructed from 4 pillars that support each other and make big I innovation happen. The first pillar is the existence of an entrepreneur within the organization, leader itself or employees, embodied with characteristics mentioned above, such as risk-taker, vital, self-confident, etc. The third pillar, productive opportunities, refers to the internal and external opportunities that drive to productivity. In addition to the model of Hindle, we propose the fourth pillar to be involved in the outcome of big I innovation. The proposed element to complete the chain is the organizative structure, which refers to the internal environment, which is related to the facilities and support given to the entrepreneurs and new ideas. Indeed, to make a clear distinction between internal factors of productivity opportunities and internal environment representing the organizative structure, the first one is the efficient usage of the existent capacities within the organization, human capital, physical capital, etc., while the second one is mostly related to behavior and mentality of the administrators of the company. And there are two options to be considered in this regard. The first one is if the entrepreneur is the leader of the company himself, and the second is that if the entrepreneur is an employee or a group of employees, then it is crucial that they are fully understood by their leaders and the management bodies of the company are in total support of the incentives of the new ideas that need to go ahead with the next steps of small I innovations that aspirate the big I innovations. Simply said, if we agree on the design of the big I innovation system to be a 3C based, capacity, connection, culmination, then we interrelate the components of innovation as such. Capacity dealing with entrepreneurial capacities, small I innovations, productive opportunities. Connection dealing with productive opportunities and organizative structure, and culmination that deals with big I innovation. In this session, we want to find out the obstacles that developing and developed countries are facing, considering the innovation framework presented above. As such, we are exploring some key figures on innovation and make a comparison among these two groups. So the first table considers 3 main data on innovation. The first one being early stage entrepreneurial activities, which surprisingly in most of the cases, the developing countries are showing higher entrepreneurial capacities than the developed countries. The second one, innovation, that is perceived as new products and services in the market. Developed countries are having better results. And the third, that is perception of other people toward entrepreneurs, which is highly rated in both of the country categories. However, in Table 2, we notice differences shown when comparing two economic levels. The fear that prevents entrepreneurs from starting a new business is higher in developing countries than in developed ones. The cause of this could be as a result of unstable economic situations. However, the difference shown does not appear to be that significant when taking other variables into play. What was interesting enough is that despite of the risk being much higher in developing countries, the entrepreneurial intention rate is again much higher in developing countries than in developed ones. This could come as a result of external conditions and the opportunities the country has to offer. So they are not lacking in either entrepreneurial capabilities nor productive opportunities. Nonetheless, when comparing the employee activity rate that is part of organizational structure, we can clearly see that the developing countries are significantly lower when it comes to employee involvement, launching new goods, service, or other units. This figure represents the new business density in high and lower middle income countries. We can immediately observe that high income countries have a higher density rate when compared with lower middle income countries. In 2018, the difference between high income and low middle income countries is with almost 4.3 new registrations happening per 1,000 people. In high income countries, the one with the most registrations was the United Kingdom, while in lower middle income countries, South Africa took the lead. What's important to add is that while the number of new registrations is increasing, it does not alone tell us whether these businesses thrive and succeed in the future. Another trend we notice from the figure is that during 2008 and 2010, the number of business registrations in developed countries fell with approximately 0.5 due to the global financial crisis happening around the world, meaning that without strong financial support and with a sustainable economy, entrepreneurs have a hard time not only taking risk and creating new ventures, but also have trouble finding resources to back up and support their ideas. These low performances might be also related to low investment in technology, thus problems with productive opportunities and organizational structures. In the third table, we focus more on the productive opportunities and entrepreneurial activities that differ between the two economic levels. Surprisingly enough, in all the three indicators that are financing for entrepreneurs, governmental support and R&D transfer, both developed and developing countries show the same trends. The framework conditions can be closely correlated with behavior and attitudes as we saw before. So, in both countries, the environment supports and finds resources to fund enterprises. On the other hand, as we can observe from the third figure, the R&D is significantly greater in high-income countries than it is in low and middle-income countries. Low-income countries tend to invest less not only in R&D, but also in training, licensing new technologies, and more. That is why we see a gap, especially in innovation, between the two economic levels. To analyze organizational structure, we have used several indicators to compare the two different economic levels. The first one being leadership index, as we observe from the table, that developed countries seem to have a higher score than developing ones. This is caused from corruption, low performance, and bad governance. It also shows assertive leadership and a culture where it seeks permission. The second, development opportunity satisfaction, we see that in developed countries, the entrepreneurs support employees with an opportunity to develop their skills and knowledge. In developing countries, overall, we see that they show lower levels of opportunities and employees need support throughout their career to advance personal skills and contribute to the success of the business. And the third, that is motivational index, is much higher in developed countries. They are more motivated for improvement and driven to create new ventures. However, the same can be seen for developing countries since it shares a low index. The internal environment doesn't feel motivated in creating new ideas. When it comes to big innovations, we have included patent registrations. From the figure, it is noticeable that developed countries have higher patent applications when compared to lower middle-income countries. Furthermore, what's evident is that during the financial crisis of 2008-2009, we see an immediate drop in developed countries. However, that does not appear to be the case for developing countries. They keep the same pace as before, unaffected by the crisis. During the last years, there has been an increase in the patent application in developing countries, and that could be because of tighter regulations and protection of innovations. This may also be correlated with the fact that looser regulation when it comes to protecting their properties, businesses feel a higher rate of failure. Here are shown the review of all indicators that we have mentioned before in the previous slides. So, to come to a conclusion, this paper tries to analyze the role of entrepreneurs in innovation when comparing developed with developing countries. The influence of innovation across countries is significant, especially as it can play a crucial role in catching up and growth. Our model is derived from Global Entrepreneurship Monitor and we use 11 indicators. The results provide confirmation of discrepancies in the value of entrepreneurship for developing countries and developed. Developing countries are facing difficulties in productivity opportunities and organizational structure, and they have two constraints: financial constraints, especially in smaller firms where funds are lacking, and organizational constraints in larger firms where the entrepreneur is responsible for facing every decision. As we saw that in developing countries, the employees do not feel motivated to engage with creative ideas or pursue innovative activities, and overcoming these differences in attitudes, such as the employee involvement, is not simple nor it is easy. However, the findings suggest that it is a needed task to implement. On indicators such as innovation, total entrepreneurial activity, entrepreneurial intentions, and even in R&D transfer, we notice that developing countries are performing well and may even surpass the developing countries. Thank you for your attention.